Hello, dear friends. It's time to talk about Europe's fragility in the midst of two world powers. Opinion piece. Europe is at risk. Eurozone crisis. They are pulling the plug. The ECB is trying to avoid a new crisis. 60% of CEOs expect a recession. There is a 40% chance of recession. Stock market plunge indicates we are close. The chance of a soft landing is 10%. Credit Suisse warns of a new world order. Peter Schiff says the bull market is dead. We live in the most dangerous time since the Cold War. Mohamed El-Erian says there is a paradigm shift. Let's start. Lagarde capitulates to Europe's division as Eurozone heads for massive crisis, says Tom Longo. Christine Lagarde tried from the start to project that central bankers as opposed to exude a shooting calm even as everything collapses around them. She said that we have inflation under control, in quotes. We will continue to grow in 2022 and growth will accelerate in 2023 and 2024. But as Suisse pointed out, Lagarde then backtracked during the press conference, trying to resurrect the ghost of Mario Draghi, saying she is ready to do whatever it takes to stabilize the situation. Lagarde says that, in quotes, within our mandate, we are committed to preventing risks of fragmentation within the euro area. She is reluctantly following the Fed's lead in ending quantitative easing. All the bond markets are moving away from the monetary experiments Lagarde inherited from Mario Draghi. Think of the implosion of Spain's Banco Popular, where Draghi forcibly liquidated when he was ECB president and sold it to Santander for €1. You will see a lot of this in Europe, and many commentators are not prepared for the idea that this is all deliberate. It's not the plan they wanted, which was that this collapse of the Eurozone would happen on their timetable, not in the markets, but it's still the plan. The most important thing is that this banking crisis would undermine the position of almost all the important politicians in the Eurozone. These guys would finally start to feel real political anger about change, as inflation devours the middle class, high energy prices destroy corporate profits, and there is no end to the regulatory tyranny coming from Brussels, bent on forcing an anti-hydrocarbon agenda. Davos will try to keep a tight grip on the European Union core, because it has the lion's share of political power. What they will not be able to control once this starts to crumble in the so-called periphery. Turkey has almost declared war on Greece over Erdogan's creative interpretation of Greece's sovereignty, accusing it of militarism islands in the Aegean. Estonia lost its majority last week because of inflation not caused by Russia, but by its own Russophobia. What they cannot control will be the collapse of almost every major government in Europe over the next year or two, while countries like Hungary are encouraged to declare independence from Brussels. That is why Lagarde was so keen to remind us that she is aware of the risks of fragmentation and that she is on top of it. If Davos loses its grand plans for world domination, it will try to dominate the European Union and parts of the Commonwealth. If Russia loses, the entire global south wouldn't be able to escape the debt-based fiduciary slavery of central banking, because they would control the flow of natural resources. Reset news. First, the fall in the stock market indicates that we are close. Second, currencies around the world are volatile because they fluctuate in value. Third, some were falling in value whilst 27 were rising in value. 4. All the hell breaks loose as stocks plunge into the bear market, the fifth largest selling program in history. 5. The stock market is in free fall as China's beleaguered property giant Evergrande Group pulled out of the market. 6. Creditors cut ties with Evergrande. Companies that once had a strong relationship with the property giant are beginning to walk away. 7. In the midst of the energy crisis, a mysterious explosion in Texas shuts down one of the world's largest fuel plants after more than 95 factories suddenly burnt or exploded. 8. Chevron says that Biden is trying to put obstacles in the way of energy supply. 9. Architect Robin Monotti charged that they are cutting off supply chains by imposing sanctions on exports from certain countries. 10. Production of baby formula has stopped again in Michigan. 11. Mass livestock deaths send shock waves through the food supply as speculation increases. 12. It looks like the time to flip the switch is near. Prices. Economy. Economy. I've lost the title, the headline. First, stocks record worst week since March 2020. Second, Wall Street closes higher but with losses in a volatile week. Third, stocks end a turbulent week with a modest gain. 4. Wall Street closes higher but remains down as volatility rolls. 5. The New York Stock Exchange has suffered its worst week since the crisis began. 6. The S&P 500 suffers its worst week since the crisis shook markets in 2020. 7. Canadian stocks plunge in worst week since the collapse. 8. More hawkish central banks trigger a seismic shift in global markets. 9. Investors hold cash after biggest loss since 2020. 10. Fed officials see more rate hikes and a soft landing. 11. The New York Fed shows that the chance of a soft landing is only 10%. 12. The Fed promises an unconditional war on inflation with whatever it takes. 13. Fed's Powell believes digital dollar could help maintain global primacy. 14. Stocks are headed for their biggest falls since 2020 on central bank measures. 15. Bears target banks in the midst of a market storm. Opinions. First, 60% of CEOs expect a recession by 2023. Second, the economy has a 40% chance of recession next year according to BofA Securities. Third, Credit Suisse warns of a new world order in the markets. 4. Economist Mohamed El-Erian says we are in a paradigm shift away from an artificial economic world. 5. Treasuries at the YEMO sees elevated cyber threats in the wake of the war in Ukraine. 6. Central banks are trying to stabilize the debt market. Will it work? Asks Gregory Manarino. 7. The Fed just bought a lot of debt debt overnight. Will the ECB follow? Says Gregory Manarino. Prices. First, gold is headed for a weekly drop on the back of a firmer dollar. Second, oil falls below $110. Third, oil falls 6% to a 4-week low on recession worries. 4. Texas Intermediate crude oil rose 2% on Thursday to close at $117.5 a barrel. 5. High gas prices fuel political dispute over oil companies. 6. Disruption of grain supplies could cause a food crisis. 7. Inflation causes consumers to lose confidence in the economy. 8. Home builders' pessimism increases due to recession and sky-high rates. 9. Consumer spending is drying up and the market is not ready for it. 10. Toy sales are also slowing because of the recession. 11. Summer Fridays remain in the era of remote working. Excuse me. Cryptocurrency. My God. First, Ripple and Stellar cryptocurrencies are backed by gold. Second, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin show rallies after Fed rate hike. Third, Bitcoin hits its lower level since December 2020 in the throes of crypto winter. Fourth, Bitcoin rallies on Friday, but is down more than 24% for the week. 5. Celsius crypto swaps are frozen. 6. Cryptocurrency firm Babel Finance suspends withdrawals and exchanges. 7. BlackRock gives Bitcoin a vote of confidence. 8. Elon Musk sued for $255 billion for an alleged Dogecoin pyramid scheme. 9. A crypto bankruptcy could be an investor's nightmare. 10. Wells Fargo economist compares crypto crash to dot-com burst. 11. FBI warns of crypto scams on LinkedIn. 12. Expects harsh regulation of crypto assets to build trust and consolidate the market. 13. Parents will be able to monitor their children's Instagram accounts. Europe. Historic heatwave in Western Europe. Second, Russia cuts its natural gas exports to European countries again. Third, Russia's Gazprom has reduced natural gas flows to Germany by 60%. 4. Europe's fear of running out of Russian gas becomes a reality. 5. Western Europe is about to get the green energy nightmare it always wanted. 6. Putin turns off the gas tap to Germany, Italy, France, and Austria. European leaders see revenge for his visit to Ukraine this week. 7. Gas flow to France halted after Russia cut supply. 8. Macron predicts a surge in French tech unicorns by 2030. 9. Polls show France divided ahead of the legislative elections. 10. Slight gains for European futures after Wall Street plunge. 11. European stock markets open slightly higher after Thursday sharp falls. 12. European stock markets try to extend gains after the Fed rate hike. 13. European stocks fall for the third week on inflation concerns. 14. The ECB must act quickly to avoid a new debt crisis. 15. Deutsche Bank expects an earlier and more severe recession. 16. Bank of England accused of easing inflation. 17. UK calls on banks to support their customers as inflation rises. 18. Ryanair cabin crew will stage a strike in June. 19. Southern European debt will remain under pressure until the ECB details the mechanism. 20. Italy's inflation in May soars to 6.8%, its highest level in 32 years. 21. Drought threatens crops in northern Italy. 22. French wheat crop forecast downgraded again. 23. Greece struggles to cope with inflation that is suffocating its citizens. 24. The inflation rate in Greece has reached 11%. 25. Hungary is ready to negotiate with Brussels to unblock its European Union funds. 26. European countries give the green light to the Polish recovery plan. 27. Brussels boosts Ukraine and Moldova's European aspirations but demands reforms. 28. The European Union may fall behind on the goals of a digital decade. 29. European Union and India relaunch free trade agreements talks. 30. NATO will reinforce its eastern European flank with more troops and heavy equipment. 31st. Ukraine's grain exports fall by 43.5% year-on-year between 1 and 16 June. 32. Ukraine will not host the next Eurovision Song Contest. Spain. First, the Spanish stock market rises 0.84% and regains 8,100 points thanks to the banks. Second, Bankinter, Sabadell and CaixaBank push the IBEX towards 8,200 points. Third, the IBEX 35 falls 3% in the week despite the pull of the banks in Friday's session. 4. The Polisario Front accuses Spain of worsening the fragile situation in North Africa. 5. 10,000 policemen will shield the NATO summit, the largest police deployment in history. 6. Enel, Endesa's parent company, sells its entire business in Russia. Americas. First, Mexico is preparing its bid for the 2036 or 2040 Olympic Games. Second, López Obrador promises $2 billion to Pemex to reduce its methane emissions. Third, the foreign ministers of Argentina and Uruguay discuss Mercosur. 4. IMF vote to approve Argentina's first review on 24th June. 5. Argentina's democracy is the child of a defeat. It has a mother and her name is Margaret Thatcher, writes Argentine journalist Juan Bautista Joffre. 6. Lasso orders operations against price speculation in Ecuador. 7. The European Union gives €2.5 million to Ecuador to strengthen the prison system. 8. The indigenous people of Ecuador ratify their call for a general strike. 9. Colombia's past divides families over elections. 10. Billionaire Jaime Gilinski bets $3.7 billion on Colombia. 11. Venezuela is about to resume crude oil exports to Europe after 2 years. 12. Bachelet denounces the persecution of priests in Nicaragua. 13. Panama's president vetoes a bill on the use of crypto assets. 14. Chile Codelco says it will close the Ventanas smelter. 15. Peru's central bank rules out aggressive interest rate hikes. 16. Peru expects slower economic growth due to impact of anti-mine protests. 17. Peru Audit Commission changes Castillo's status from witness to investigated. 18. Bolivia delays decision on lithium mining alliances until December. 19. Call for the release of Salvadoran youths detained under the emergency regime. 20. The Salvadoran Attorney General's office declares a report on the emergency regime non-existent in quotes. 21st. Petrobras announces full price hike and angers Brazilian politicians. 22nd. Wave of indignation in Brazil over the murder of journalist Dom Phillips and expert Bruno Pereira. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.